Mike, welcome to the podcast. Thanks so much for taking the time out of your day and hanging out with me here today.
Dude, happy to be here. Happy to be on the pod, as
This
they
is
say.
great. So tell everybody before we get into the nuts and bolts of the podcast, give us a little background about what the name of your pizzeria is, where you're located, and all that good stuff.
Yeah, for sure. So I'm Pizza Delicious. We're in New Orleans, Louisiana, and we're down in the Bywater neighborhood, which is a little east of the French Quarter along the river. Own it with my buddy Greg Algarden, and we've been at it as a brick and mortar since 20, and we were a pop-up starting in early 2010 that led to the brick and mortar.
That's cool. So you did a pop up before pop ups were popular.
Yeah. I used to be cool, you know. Yeah, we had it was a pretty early concept. I mean, I feel like that stuff was going on in some of the bigger cities, but I'd say we were probably one of the first pop-ups down here. Yeah.
What did you guys? I talked to the founder of the Uni Ovens the other day, last week, I think, on the podcast. It
Oh,
should be coming out
cool.
this week. Yeah, and he started. I think said he started in. Damn, he's gonna kill me because I forgot already, and I just talked to him last week. I think he started 2015 or something like that. So
Yeah.
what oven did you use? Because those weren't really around. Like the Gosney and Unis, which everybody uses now, weren't really around back then.
Yeah. So it was a different situation. We were in a fixed space, and this was something that I feel like we got really lucky with. We were actually using an old deck oven that was just existed in this space. There was this kitchen space that I think it was a bakery
Okay.
before Hurricane Katrina, and that bakery never came back. The guy who lived next door just bought it and was just kind of sitting on it. He was having some people in the community do some stuff there, so there was like a caterer working out of this space, and there was a baker and another guy as well. And so yeah, this was kind of this space that it was this commercial kitchen space, but it was not fully functional or also maybe not fully legal. But we were the only ones to kind of decided to get into this space and try to sell food directly out of it. These other people were more using it as a prep space, and so there was this gas deck oven in there. And there was also an old Hobart mixer, and so it was just
Oh,
kind of while we just ended up in this spot where a very New Orleans thing. Like our landlord was like, until you start selling anything, just give me this, some samples of the pizza. Very very chill, very easygoing, and yeah, that's kind of where we started out.
how long did you do that for?
And so that was February 2010, and yeah, we opened the brick and mortar in November of 2012. So
So
it was something where,
was
go
it
ahead.
busy enough that got you enough money to open the brick and mortar? Is that why you guys opened?
I mean, I wouldn't say it funded it fully, but it stepped us as a thing.
Yeah.
It was kind of here is these two New York guys making New York style pizza. Nobody was really doing that kind of thing around town. And I think the allure of it too was we were in this neighborhood where at the time there was not a lot of restaurants in the Bywater where we're located. And so it was something where people in the neighborhood were really stoked about it. And then it was this whole kind of thing. We had this burner cell phone. You had to call, place an order. We figured out after we got slammed a few weeks in, where it kind of blew up in our face. We were like, we need a system. We figured out we could make a pizza or turn out a pizza every 3 minutes. So we had 20 slots in an hour that we would fill up, and people would call, and we got so busy that if you actually waited until we were open, we were just open Sunday nights to start, and then we added Thursday nights, and that was the most we kind of do in the space. But if you called after we'd opened and you're like, hey, can I get a pizza? We'd be like, actually, we've got a 7:53 available. We could slot you in or
Wow.
something ridiculous like that. So it was cool. I mean, it got really busy, and we became pretty well known, and we had a lot of key pieces of press. I feel that just happened to us, but also part of this, so looking back on it, it's all the things that we did out of necessity, which was we only had a limited amount of space, so we only could make so much dough. We only could be in the space to certain hours. It became this very exclusive kind of thing that I feel like really helped drive business. And people are like, you guys were so smart the way you did that. But like, we were just like, that was the only way we could do it. And
That's
also,
hilarious.
we had all the social media things really like working in our favor. It's like still back in the day where you post on Facebook and like everyone would see it.
Yeah.
And so like the algorithm wasn't some like big scary thing, and I feel like we really really benefited from that kind of thing because we're able to just use kind of some like light social media and just like word of mouth to kind of build this thing where, I mean, truly we were just like, we just want to make pizza that's good. Me and Greg are from New York, and we don't, no one's making the pizza like back home, and if we can figure that out, maybe other people will like it. And became something where like a few months in, people were like, you gotta do this, you gotta open. And that call kept getting louder and louder. We were like, I guess we're gonna open a real pizza place.
What did you guys obviously had jobs on the side then, right? Because it's only open 2 days a week.
Yeah, totally. I mean, eventually we were able to stop doing those, but I was cooking at a restaurant called Boucherie down here, which is kind of like a kind of like creative Southern food restaurant. I had no prior cooking experience to that. I was supposed to be a high school English teacher, which I was briefly, and then and Greg was like working in a law office, just kind of working for a couple of attorneys there. And so we had become roommates in college. We met in college at Tulane, and just loved cooking, loved Italian food. And we made pizza one night, always lamenting, like, with a lot of other like people who come from like pizza towns, they're just like, what's up? New Orleans has amazing food, but like no one is killing it on the pizza front.
Yeah.
So we made some home pizza one night, and we were just like, honestly, this is like, we don't know what we're doing, and this is better than anything we've had. Like, so maybe there's something here. Yeah.
I wonder if you could do that today. Like if you could start the way you started today. Because a lot of people listen to this podcast and like follow us on Instagram and hear stories like yours of people who started like you did, right? And they're like, but that was 10 years ago, 12 years ago. And then the age we're in, 12 years ago, is like 50 years ago. Because everything moves so fast and changes so quickly now. So like, I don't know, could you do that? I'm sure you could do it today, but I don't know if it would be as quick or work as the same way today that it did for you back then.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, I like to think you could. Like, I like to think the spirit of that is still there. That like if you kind of test the waters, you got a good product, you work hard, you got some friends who help hype you up and all this stuff, that like it can all happen. But I feel incredibly lucky for having tried this at the time we did it, like you're saying.
Yeah.
I feel like a lot of things just kind of hit, like timing wise. Wasn't like we're just one of all these many pop-ups where like we were maybe the only pop-up, maybe one of a handful, and so it feels definitely more crowded and more difficult. But I think the general idea of like, hey, if you can get yourself in a situation where you're trying something, with a low cost and like a low barrier of entry to test out your stuff and see if people like it, I feel like there's a lot of value in that. Whether it catches on and whether it works, I don't know. But the way we did it and kind of happened into all of it and the way it organically grew, I mean, I think it's just hard. It's hard for anyone to do, what then or now. But I think we did have it probably a bit easier.
I don't know. I don't want to say easy because nothing that anybody does that turns out well was easy. It took you a couple years to like build your business up. So I don't want to make it sound like it was easy for you because it probably wasn't and most likely wasn't. What I mean is like I think it could work today, but I think people's patience are smaller or shorter than it was back in the day before social media was like, it wasn't TikTok. Instagram was very new. Like you said, Facebook was kind of new to everybody in the restaurant industry using it as a marketing platform. So, like, there wasn't as much information out there like there is today. And people see, like, stories like yours today, and they're like, oh, I'm going to start a pop-up with my Gauzy uni. And I hope you do, and I really want people to do that. But just have patience. Because it's not like you're going to be like, I bought an uni. I'm going to make pizza at home, and 3 weeks from now, you're going to be like, all right, now I'm opening my brick-and-mortar. I think that's what people expect.
Yeah, totally. I mean, yeah, it was a journey, and it was hard, and we worked a lot. And there's so many things that are more difficult about having a brick and mortar restaurant staffing, being the biggest
Yeah.
thing. It's just like are responsible for all these people. We were, it was me, it was Greg, it was a couple of friends, who we hired, and but we worked so much. We were there making the dough late at night and doing all the stuff, and it's so also inefficient to run a pop-up too, especially if you can't string the days together, which we weren't really able to. And so it's like you set it all up for one day on a Thursday, you got to break it all down. You got to do it all again on Sunday. And I think the amount of effort to efficiency, was like pretty whack. But yeah, I mean, it took a lot, and still, even though I feel we had developed this product that people were like, a lot of people were like, hey, this is really some of the best pizza in town. This might be the best pizza in the state. All this type of stuff. People like, yeah, you hype it. It's like it's like a total sea change to move into a brick and mortar and really be like, I'm doing this now.
It's probably more pressure too, because once you have a brick and mortar, there's like a constant flow of like, all right, you got to make payroll. You have to pay your rent. Like, you have to get customers every single day, because if you don't, then you're not going to be able to afford to have those people or the products or the way you want it to run.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah. I mean, yeah, incredible amount of stress and it's different for everyone, the space they find to kind of be able to do their pop-up. How equipped is that? How hard do you have to work at that? And then it's also like, yeah, brick and mortar wise, like, how hard do you have to work to get that space to what you want it to be, which for us was pretty hard. Like, we did not find an existing restaurant space or anything like that, which everyone who's like thinks they know stuff, they're like, you just find a restaurant spot and then you just go in there and a lot of it's done for you already. It's like we knew it was really important, because we had built what we had in those couple years in the neighborhood we were in, that we needed to stay in that neighborhood, and there were not a lot of options for us. New Orleans is not a very dense city, compared to other places. There's a lot of one-story housing here, which is what makes it nice and charming, but it also means that stuff's a lot more spread out. And so we ended up building out a section of a warehouse space that essentially had nothing in it, because we felt it was so important, because we'd built our following in this neighborhood to kind of continue to be based there, which was a lot of time, a lot of like scary money that we didn't really have. And then and then you open and you're like, I hope all those people who said they liked us before gotta
come by every and like come by consistently, right?
Yeah, I mean, I think there was a lot of like excitement around it from us and from the community, and it was the community that I feel like really drove us to be like, you do it, and we did. And I remember that first day opening, and it was so much busier than we could anticipate it. And because the pop-up was so small, and I would be stretching the pizza, I would see everybody who came through. I knew our customers, and I was like, dude, I think they all came on the first day. Like, I don't know if anyone's left. But luckily, people kept coming, which was
That's good. That means you have a good product, right? Because I remember those days. But sometimes even like when you do have an established business, I remember days in my business when I was like, it would be super busy for a couple weeks, and we were like, yes, we figured it out. Like, we figured out how to do this. And then all of a sudden, like a month later, you get these 2 or 3 days in a row that it's like the slowest it's ever been, and we're like, fuck, we're screwed. What did we do wrong? Like, there's always those ups and downs, and it was like that forever. There was never a time where it was like smooth sailing all the time. You're always going to get one of those down days or a dip in sales, and you're going to second guess something that you did wrong. So it's just part of the business, though. Yeah,
for sure. Yeah, I mean, there's so many things to throw your brain off course where you're just like questioning that you're doing,
When you opened the brick and mortar, how much did it cost you guys to build it out? Like, what did you have to do? Did you get everything from scratch? New oven, new mixer, all that new stuff? Or did you just
so it was a mix of stuff. I mean, that's taking me back a little bit, but I'm trying to remember. I mean, we had, because the space was truly just a kind of a blank warehouse space, we were able to kind of get our landlords to pay, I think it was like $25,000 towards like getting it to like a, white box because it was not that. And so, that was a helpful little jump to get started. Yeah, new ovens. I mean, Marcel and Sons, we started with like a double deck oven. We were able to add another one, I feel like a year or two in. Once it was kind of, we felt like we were getting some steady business and it would really help us out. Hobart mixer used. The big cost was like, yeah, it was the equipment, and a lot of the equipment was new. But it was, yeah, I mean, it was the electrical, the plumbing, like we had to trench, all this stuff. And I mean, we tried to save some money and did what work we could, but I'm not a construction guy, neither is Greg. We're like, if we can move stuff or use our physical labor or make runs to stores to get equipment to save any amount of money in this, we'll do it. But also, we're pretty limited in what we could actually accomplish on our own. I mean, I feel like in the end, it probably to open was something like $200,000 at that time, which was 12 years back, I guess. Now around at this point when we were building that out. So
yeah. That sounds like it's like 200 to 500,000 depending on how big the spot is and what you put in there for equipment. And like you said, plumbers and electricians. Like people always think that pizza operators make a ton of money and a ton of cash, but it's really plumbers and electricians. Like plumbers and electricians come to businesses that we work with, and we're like, what? How did you just charge us that much money to do that work for like an hour and a half? It's like, I know that you know how to do it and we don't, but like, damn.
Yeah. It's crazy. I mean, yeah. And I mean, those are prices for us for, that are pretty dated. I think every piece of work we've had to do since then, I'm like, oh my God.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
Yeah. It's wildly expensive, but, yeah, I mean, I don't know. I don't know the trade. You got to respect their skills.
I do. I totally respect it because I don't want to complain about people because, but that's the same thing that we go through, right? As pizzeria owners, it's like, oh, people want a really good product, and then they want a good product in a timely manner with friendly service, but that costs money. You gotta charge for that price because just like that, you don't want an electrician or a plumber to come to your house and be like, all right, I want to chintz on the price, but then like something could happen. You want to make sure that person is good and the quality of work is good, so you pay for that quality of work.
Dude, and it's hard. I mean, I would say that for anyone who's like trying to get into this stuff, I think getting highly recommended people, getting referrals for things that you're going to spend a lot of money on, services, whether it's building, contracting, subcontract, whatever it is, it's like that is such an important and powerful thing because I mean, we did get some good references and this and that for some people, but dude, the money we spent on our AC, and New Orleans is hot as hell.
Yeah, it is.
For a lot of
I went
year.
there. I went to a speaking. We talked about that before I got on the show. I spoke at an event there in August, the end of August. And I'm from Boston, so it gets hot in there in summer. And I go to Florida a lot, so I know hot. New Orleans is a different kind of hot. You walk out of I walked out of the hotel, and it was like 98 degrees with 97% humidity. It's like you walk out the door, and it's like instantly you just get soaked. You didn't even go in the water.
Exactly. Yeah, I was trying to. I did a little exercise before this, and I was trying to just dry off before sitting here and talking to you. But all that to say, I mean, it's like our AC. I mean, we had to almost redo the entire thing because the guy who did it originally, that we paid a ton of money to, did a lot of things wrong, and that's crazy to have to go back on such a major cost and have to get someone who's going to do it right for you. And it's scary to think that kind of stuff, it does happen all the time. And so, even if you're starting out fresh and you don't know anyone or don't know many people in the restaurant industry, and one of the great things about New Orleans is really tight-knit, food and beverage community, and people want to see each other succeed. It's not this like cutthroat thing. And so, it's like we were able to talk to a lot of people, but even just going place to place, being like a place you like, a place you think looks nice, whatever it is, and we'd be like, hey, can I talk to the owner about something? I'm curious. What would you guys use for electric? Could you guys use for HVAC? That stuff is so valuable.
Today's podcast is also brought to you by Slice. Slicelife.com/smart pizza. If you are an indie pizzeria who's looking to take advantage of technology, online ordering, all of that great stuff, and compete with those big brands, you got to check out Slice. Founded by a third-generation pizza person who grew up in his family's business and saw firsthand how hard it is in the challenges of being an independent pizzeria, he created Slice. And now this company's whole mission is to keep local businesses thriving, and it's been on the right track for a long time now. They handle everything like powering online ordering and building you a free website. Plus, also, stuff like customized marketing, which is about getting customers to order from you more frequently. And they give you all the data. They share all the data with you, so it makes them a true partner. But it's not a third party. People often mix up Slice with Grubhub and Uber Eats. It's not one of those people because those third-party apps don't give you the data. Slice gives you the data, and they care about their customers, and they want you to succeed. Because if you succeed, they succeed. It's a true partnership. If you want some more information on what they do, go to slicelife.com/smart pizza and let them know you heard them on the Smart Pizza Marketing Podcast. Yeah, great tip, especially because you can see the work done, and the owner's going to, if they're happy with it, they're happy to give you a referral. People love referring businesses that they like.
Yeah.
And that they did a good job. People like doing that.
Yes, agreed. Yeah.
So let's get into pizza a little bit, because I'm looking over your Instagram, and we'll link it in the show notes so people can see it. But your pizza looks fantastic. I'm sad to say that I haven't had a chance to try it yet. Next time I'm in New Orleans, definitely going to stop in. But it looks phenomenal on Instagram, and the way you guys take photos and the lighting you use is really great. How did you come up with your recipe? I know it was probably you said you're from you said you're from Long Island, so it's probably like a New York style pizza, like just pizza you liked and you're just trying to replicate that.
Yeah, I mean exactly that. Yeah, me and so I'm from Long Island, and Greg, who is my partner, and it's still best buddy, he is from Rockaway, he's from Queens, and we just grew up on good pizza. And I think something that struck us in terms of trying to develop this recipe was what are the places that are saying they're making New York pizza? And granted, a lot's changed in the 14 years since we started making pizza, but at the time, the places that are we make New York pizza, and you have it and you're like, this is not that. And you're just like, how did you end up here? Because that what we did, it was just reverse engineering. We knew in our heads what we were shooting for, and we didn't even go. We weren't we need to go back to New York to really get it. It's just this is ingrained in our brains, and we're gonna know once we make something that tastes kind of like what we grew up with. We're gonna know we're doing it, getting close and getting it right. And we had zero pizza experience to start, and I think that was it was challenging. We used the internet a bunch, and neither of us worked in a pizza place before. And again, now so many TikToks, so many YouTube videos of how to do it. Back then, way less so. We were on pizzamaking.com. We're reading Tom Lehman stuff, the Dough Doctor. We're reading the pizza magazines. We're just kind of trying to be hey, let's try this. Let's try this week. Let's try this. And, but we were very, very inexperienced when we started. But I remember the first time we made a dough, stretched it so it looked like a pizza, put it in, and it came out pretty good. We were like, okay, we start here, and let's just start adjusting from here. And, and the pizza, I think, has improved drastically over time. But I think it was really just the fundamental understanding of this is what we know what we want it to be. So let's just keep tweaking until we get close to there.
Yeah. I think YouTube started in 2012 or 2010 or something around that time. That's when it was really starting to gain traction. It's nowadays you just go to YouTube and you type in pizza. There's thousands of videos on how to make pizza.
Yeah. Would have been a lot easier. Also, a lot more places, I feel getting it now too. Able to make good pizza fairly easily, where I feel before there was a lot more mystery around it.
Yeah. Which is great for us consumers of pizza, because now you can go to any city and there's at least a couple shops that are doing pizza really well.
Yeah, for sure. More abundant. And here too, there's some really good pizza places now, which is cool. I like that. I'm great. I love to get a slice from somewhere else or something.
Yeah. Where did you eat when you were in Long Island? Like, where were your favorite places? Are they still around, or are they old places that kind of with like old local places?
Yeah, I mean, none of the places I feel like I went to were the like were making some type of list. Of course, everything now is like a list. At the time, it was just
Yeah.
a pizza place.
But sometimes those lists are over. Sometimes like the list, people list out places. So I'm from Boston. So that's like the only reference point I have is like the list that come out from the people in Boston or the pizza places in Boston. And to be brutally honest with you, a lot of the lists of best pizza places in Boston aren't the greatest.
Yeah, yeah,
It's like they've just been on those lists for a long time. So it's like it's almost like that pizzeria that's been busy for 40 years and they don't really know how they've been busy for 40 years. They've just been around for 40 years. So everybody knows them.
yes,
It's like the lists.
yes, yeah. I mean, there's a whole talk we could do about like the list economy for sure. I mean, for us, it was just like the place nearest to your house, more or
Yeah.
less, was like the pizza place you went to. And there was, I feel like, a fairly high bar for, that making that style of pizza where we were. And so it's actually sad. The place I feel like I most remember eating at and growing up with was called Joanne's. And they recently closed like about a couple months ago, but they definitely had a good run. And they seemed content with closing, which you're never really sure. You're like, people just saying that.
Yeah.
But
They're retiring and they're just done. Or
yeah, we had Joanne's, we had Attilio's. There was Gino's, which everyone thought was like a little bit better, but it was like technically kind of like a little bit to the next town over. But yeah, those were the spots. And Greg, I feel like had some different spots because he was in Queens, and he went to like he was the first person to take me to like DeFara's, which like legendary spot. Got to see Dom in action before he passed away a few times, but like that wasn't very far from his house. He had a bit of a different, I feel, a pizza pedigree that maybe is like people would look at and be like, this is like, oh, those places, those are good.
Yeah. So no one can come into Pizza Delicious and be like, hey, I'm from New York. You guys should do this. And you're like, well, fuck you, because we are too.
Yeah, but people tell us all sorts of stuff. And people tell us, they're like, we know you're using the water from New York. And we're like, all right. We're not.
You're not, right? Just to be clear. Yeah. All right.
No, we're not. But people like to tell us stuff, and it's interesting. And people tell us all sorts of stuff. But, I think there's also somewhat of a prejudice, too, of like in people's minds where they're like, this pizza can't possibly be as good as pizza in New York. The best I can say is that it's the closest thing, or it's like the best thing I've had outside of New York, or whatever it is. And I'm kind of like, well, there's some really great pizza places in New York, but like I did go back to Joanne's a few times since we opened, and I was kind of like, I mean, I feel like our pizza's pretty damn good compared to this place, and that's the thing. I mean, all pizza's good in some way, but it's
Definitely.
like it just depends what you're looking for and what your tastes are and whatnot. But yeah, people do get pretty funny about that kind of thing, where they like to tell you where they're from, and it used to scare me, man. I remember when the pop-up, we had our little pay-as-you-go cell phone, and I'd see the New York numbers. I'd see the 516, 718. Yeah, and they all do the same shit. They're all like, yeah, let me get a cheese pie, or like, let me get a plain. Like they're like testing you, And I would be I'd be like, look at the sheet. I'd be like, what did you think? They come back next week and they'd be like, all right, now I'm gonna try more stuff because I trust you, And I think that meant a lot.
That's hilarious. And it's only people from New York who say that. Like nobody comes into the pizza shop and is like, hey, I'm from Minnesota, and we're gonna see if this pizza is great. No offense to Minnesotans. Or,
yeah, sure,
Minnesotians or whatever.
Yeah.
But that's what they all do. And there's so many great pizza places. Like I'm lucky enough to be able to travel around a lot, and in every place I've traveled to, Chicago, Orlando, Los Angeles, the big cities, New York. Even like in Wisconsin, like there's always one or two places that you can go to that have really, really good pizza now. It's like, it's unbelievable how many good pizza places there are out there. You just got to find them and really look. Like you said, ask friends, ask people in the community. Instagram is a great place to find great pizza, but there's so many more options I don't think New York has the same allure that it did 20 years ago about being like the pizza capital of the world.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of good pizza out there. It's true. I think people in New York, I mean, I think the culture is so strong around like New York pizza, that there
Yeah.
still is like some, I know what you mean that you can find a higher quality pizza like kind of all around and in a lot of places, especially cities, but
Yeah.
I think that long-standing tradition of kind of like, look, there's all different styles of pizza, but kind of the slice, which is like a very New
Yeah.
York thing, and a pizza by the slice in that way, I feel like it's just this kind of cultural thing where I think that's not going to go away, and not every city has that kind of thing going on. They can have good pizza
True.
places, but do they have these like slice shops in the same way where people kind of just come in casually, get their slice? You could get pizzas later for bigger things, and events, or for your family or whatever. But I think that kind of like slice culture is something that I feel like was unique to New York and is still like going strong and still I feel like evolving in a cool way. And so I don't want to take that away from New York, because I think
That's true. I agree. And a lot of people who are making great pizza in other cities always kind of reference New York, I guess, or make treks to go visit pizza place. There was a pizza place I just did a video for here in the Boston area. He went before he opened. He didn't have any experience in pizza, and he went to New York City to kind of like, go look at the Lindustries or the best pizza or those top pizza places you hear of that are on the list, but they're still legitimately good pizza places. Like a lot of pizza places on those lists are good pizza places.
yeah, there's plenty of great pizza places, and New York is awesome too, because, and I know a lot of towns and cities have this too, but it's just like, and they're dying off, but it's like the long standing family mom and pop places that have been
Yeah.
around. I feel like we're older now because we've been around, our name since the pop-up has been, what, like 14 years, and that's a long time, and like we're proud of that.
Yeah.
But like, yeah, I mean, these places you can go in New York and they've been around since the 50s, 60s, 70s, 80s, like that's cool, and there's something to that too, where it's like, yeah, everyone is like evolving. The electric ovens are really cool. They're kind of like a cheat code to like making amazing pizza. And I know we're kind of focused on this one style of pie right now, but like and L'Industry is amazing and Best Pizza is amazing, but it's like I do feel there's this like homogenization happening of like everybody's trying to kind of make a similar pizza that
Yeah.
at this time where I kind of, we went to New York recently, me and Greg and our GM Madison, and like we're like, hey, let's do it. Let's check out some of these newer spots, because like I honestly hadn't been, and they're all so good, and but it was kind of almost more interesting to go to some of the older school spots and be like, but this pizza hasn't changed. This is the same
Yeah.
that it's been. And that is something, that's like significant too. And I really like that kind of thing.
Yeah, that's a great point. You guys have been around for 14 years. Are you guys like the old guys on the block in the pizza scene down there?
Yeah, it's somewhat. I mean, we're getting older. There have been places, there's a couple kind of like local specific to New Orleans chains, Eos and Reginelli's that have been hanging around for longer than us for sure. And they were kind of what we had to eat in college and stuff. And it's just, it's a different style than what we make. And I think a bit more into like toppings. They're a bit like heavier pies,
Yeah.
they're not claiming to make that New York style pizza that like we make. And so they've been at it for some time, but they also are different in that they just have multiple locations where we're just kind of hanging with one,
You guys just content with the one?
Yeah, I like the one.
Yeah.
I like the
That was
one.
that was a long pause before you answered. Like you guys have thought about it.
Well,
And then
it's
like, I think I
it's
just
like
doing
comes
what we're
up
doing.
over time, and people are always asking because they don't want to make. New Orleans is not a small. I mean, sorry, it's not a big town at all. The farthest you're gonna drive is probably like 30 minutes, and that probably has a little bit of traffic involved. And so, it's not big, but
Yeah.
you get used to your scale of things, and people are like, man, you're so far away. We're like known, I feel like, for a long time as like a destination pizza place because like, it's like this neighborhood was not necessarily a neighborhood that people were naturally going to before, and there's a lot more great restaurants, great bars, and all that type of stuff now. But yeah, so I think we're really happy that we've been able to make one work for us financially, and that we were able to kind of like go in 50-50 on that, get some loans, pay them back, and it's just us. We don't have to obviously pay the staff, but like, that we've been able to make it work is just one spot. And I don't know, it's a terrifying proposition to me to do more. And honestly, in some way, I feel we've like missed our window to do it because I think there are just other places in other neighborhoods kind of filling that gap now.
Yeah. Listen, there's no, like, no one should ever pressure anybody else to do anything they don't want to do. I think that's sometimes, and I kind of hate asking that question about like, do you want to open a second location? Because I used to get asked that question, and I was like, gee, why does everybody ask us that question? And I feel like, you know what, I'm not gonna ask that question anymore. But I asked.
Yeah.
You, so I gotta finish.
No, I think it's a good question, but I think it's so dependent, I guess, on people's situations and how much money do they need to be making? How much can you make off of one spot, and can that sustain you, or do you have other partners and stuff? And maybe it's not enough. You have to do more. It needs to be part of the plan to do more if you want to make a living off of it. And so, I don't know. I think it just really, really depends. But we feel like really fortunate to be able to only have to focus on one place because it lets us, be in a lot more control of it. And I feel we would have had to give up a lot more of that if we had multiple spots.
So your menu looks kind of small too, which is good. You just have, looks like I'm looking at your menu now, pizza, a couple pasta dishes, a couple sides and salads. Not a whole lot on there, which is great. I love that.
Yeah, we keep it tight. We change the way we do it is it's like we always got cheese, we always got pepperoni, we always got margarita. Only one size, 18-inch pizza, sell by the slice. We always have something vegan on there, and we'll change that every week or two. And we'll have kind of like a meat-based special. And we change that every week or two. We have like a vegetarian-based special. Change that every week or two. They're not, and we have a Supreme, which is something that took us a while to come to, where we're like, we don't do Supremes. I don't know, but then we did in a few years back, and everyone loves it, and so we're just like, sure, like let's give the people what we want, or what they want, and so yeah, it's not like we're coming up constantly with new pizzas. There's just kind of a rotation that kind of goes on, and I think that allows us to minimize waste, kind of keep things under control. The one size, we're kind of like, oh, you want less than a giant 18-inch pizza, get it by the slice, and then. Yeah, salads. We got a house salad or Caesar salad. It's really well known. People tell us all the time, like, this is the best Caesar I've had. We just make the dressing real nice and use real Parmigiano Reggiano, use some good anchovies in there and stuff. And then we do a special salad, which changes kind of monthly or so, maybe just, every couple months. And then we have a pasta program, which we love. And also small, we got 3 to 4 things on the menu at a time. Always try to have something vegan on there for folks. And that's got a little bit of a format too. It's like, let's have the carbonara, we just have decided is a staple because we love it and like think we make it really well. And then, there's there's a meat pasta, which right now, like we have a bolognese on there, and there's either a veggie or like a seafood pasta. So we have like a shrimp scampi kind of thing on there right now. And that's been more fun. I feel like pizzas, we're not like always coming up with new ones, but I feel like the pasta program's a little more like flexible, a little more, we're like flexing a little bit, getting like a little more like chefy with that kind of stuff. And that's but yeah, not a lot of choices, but we just try to make all of it really good,
I like that's better. I think it's easier for, profitability, the staff, training, to do a few things really, really well than trying to have these huge menus where, having somebody new come in and having 100 different menu items is like going to blow their minds. It's going to way overwhelm them to try to learn how to make all those things the way you want them to be made.
Totally. And it feels hard enough to do it, with this smaller menu. Granted, like the list is long of things people will have to learn how to make over time, but
Yeah.
it's segmented a little more the way it's kind of rolled out.
A question I get asked from listeners all the time is like, how do you price your menu items? Like, do you just go by like a food cost? Is there like, all right, our food cost needs to be 25 or 30%, and then on top of that, the labor and business costs, usually it's like 55% of like cost of goods and everything that's rolled into that, and then you price your product based on that. Is that how you guys do it?
It's a great question. I mean, it's kind of, it's just like roughly percentage based. I mean, I feel like when we started, truly had no idea what we were doing, read some stuff and maybe books and the internet, and it was just kind of like try to do 30% food costs, or 33%, or somewhere around. It should be a third, and we were like, okay, let's see if we can do that. Had like Excel open, just trying to like figure those things out, and I think that's where we started. I think it's a little different because it's like back to this, like, what do you need? What are you trying to get out of your business? How much money are you trying to make? Like, what's your involvement? Are you the guy who's like, I'm the owner, I'm like the chef owner? Or are you just an investor, like, who's expecting to like make what they're trying to make, but understands what their role is in it? I mean, like, for us, I feel like it was just this funny thing where we're like, this is a pop-up, we're very young, we don't have a lot of expenses. If we're making any amount of money on this, we like think we're geniuses, to now, like, we feel like we need to make a certain amount of money. Greg and I are both married. He's got 2 kids, I've got 1. We each own a home. It's a lot different. So now I feel like we really come in a lot harder when we look at food cost stuff, because we're like, hey, we have to make a certain amount of money now to like keep living, then pay for these expenses that are critical. And so I think we've gotten, I think, a lot tighter with food cost stuff, where we drill into it more. And I think we have a good bookkeeper. We also have, we use a program called Margin Edge, which I don't know if you've heard of before, but
I feel like I've heard of that. I feel like someone mentioned that to me.
I'm sure there's a lot of these kind of programs, but like, you scan in our invoices, our receipts and stuff, and it kind of puts it all in one place and allows you to really like drill into like the costing, like with updated, information, like, hey, you're trying to cost out your Caesar salad, but romaine is like growing poorly out west. It's getting more expensive. You can kind of see on your you can make a recipe on there, and it'll show you the most recent invoice to what you're paying and change the food costs on there for you, which all that stuff's like been really, really helpful. As I feel like, I mean, I'm sure you talk about it with a lot of people, but it's like a lot harder since the pandemic to run a business, and whatever it is, people going out to eat less, inflation, things being more expensive, all this stuff. I feel like we've had to be more business minded than we ever have before, which we were privileged to kind of be riding this amazing wave and just kind of getting busier each year. And then, man, it's been tough, to kind of claw back the idea of like making money, which is like, we love making pizza and we want to keep doing that, but we also have to, figure out how to make a certain amount on there. So I feel like we've gone from like, oh yeah, like a 30% food cost is the goal, to more like, can we kind of get this down to 25%, because everything else is so expensive and it's gone up so much.
Yeah.
And can we figure that out,
Listen, you got to make money, right? Even the IRS, who says if you don't make money for 3 years, it's just a hobby. And like, listen, I mean, I love hobbies, but I don't want to spend 80 hours a week on my hobby that I have to support my family
I
with.
believe that this is my career at this point, but I still still not sure. But yeah, this is the only thing I do, so have to make a living as people do.
This is it's like, that's great. I think that's a mistake a lot of people make in the beginning, is they don't do what you're saying, is like, all right, make sure that from the beginning you get excited about being in the business and you're opening, and like, all right, you want to make pizza. But like in the beginning, if you really are looking to do this as a business, really get tight on your numbers, because the tighter you are on your numbers from the beginning, the easier it'll be for you in like years 2 through 5.
Yeah. I think that stuff's really, really important, and all those decisions to make to change pricing or change what you pay people and all that stuff. I mean, those, it's like you can only do what you can with the information you have at the time, but it's also,
Yeah.
I feel like we had a mentality of when we started, we were just kind of like, look, if the business is doing well, the people who are work here are gonna do well too. And I think we're always kind of like, hey, this is only as good as like the people we have here helping us make all the food. And as Greg and I transition more out of the place on the day to day and like making all the pizzas and, taking all the orders, all that stuff, and grow this like bigger staff, it's like, man, you really got to take care of your people. But also it's tough because it's like you set certain precedents when you decide what things are going to cost, what you're paying people. And sometimes, it's a balance because you might get too excited and you're like, hey, everybody makes this now. And then you're like, well,
Yeah.
hold on. Maybe that was too much or something, or we went a little above and beyond. And it's not to say I don't think people should do well at their jobs or in this industry. I'm glad to see that there's been a big like evolution to that. It's like really important for us that we feel our staff's like well taken care of, but also there's only so much to go around, and it's like, it can get a little sticky when you're trying to figure all that stuff out.
I used to find myself being like, saying the same thing, like on those slow weeks that I referred to last time. You come to like Saturday and you're like, you guys want the day off? I need to like lower these prices a little bit. Maybe I'll hop in there and make pizzas myself for the day.
Dude, that is me right now. I'm just like, the summer here really slows down a lot, and we're lucky we have a lot of local business, but there are a lot of businesses in this town that rely heavily on tourism, but still every summer people are like, this is worse than last time. And I know it's not officially summer yet everywhere, but it has been over 90 degrees every day here for about a month where we're feeling that. And man, last week sucked. It was a really bad week of sales. And we're having like a manager's meeting today, and should be like, hey, we got to figure some stuff out because this is a bit rough,
Yeah. I mean, I hate to end on that note, but it's been 47 minutes, and I feel like I told you 30, but this is a great conversation, and it got a lot of info out of you, and I appreciate you taking the time out of your day. Let me just make sure I got this straight. Your website, pizzadelicious.com, on Instagram. You guys are Pizza Delicious. Is there anywhere else where people should go follow you guys or message you if they have a question?
Those are the main ones. I mean, we're on Facebook too, for sure. It's still there. Yeah.
Me too.
Yeah.
I am too. I'm with you.
And no, I mean that's the main stuff. Come check us out. We're having a good time.
And if they stay in downtown New Orleans, if someone's going to like the French Quarter, you guys are right around that area.
Yeah, not far. Little jaunt down a little east of there. It's not too hot. It's a nice walk. We've got a good riverfront park to walk down from the back of the French Quarter by Frenchman Street, which people probably know when they come down. And
what's the cafe there?
Cafe Du Monde. Is that?
How far away from that are you guys?
I mean, it's a solid walk, but it's a very short drive. It's like a 5-minute drive from down there.
That's not bad at all.
It's very close, and we also do delivery to that area too, for sure. So
perfect. All right, Mike, thank you so much. This is awesome. I had a great time talking to you. Thank you so much for coming on the podcast and sharing all your knowledge
Bruce,
with us.
Thanks, man. This was a lot of fun.